be doing the second testing of this DSi Excel console. Assume it's an Excel. Yeah, it's American. Sweet. Before I'm going to read that, I'm going to look at the digital records I have. For this console, it usually will... Okay, what one's this? Bronze 4098. Bronze 4098. Shell notes, minor rust around bottom screen, new digitizer. Usually the minor rust is like some surface rust if there was a tiny bit of water damage on the board, but not enough to actually get into the screen and to damage the screen, because liquid will screw the hell out of these LCD displays. And I also, this is the one, okay, this is the one I bent the game card pin up. And according... I didn't really specify why it needed cleaning. I could probably look back on that video, but nah, where's the fun in that? R cut out on pullback. Cleaning seemed to help. Okay, so my first test will be tactile buttons, so I'll pay attention to that. I want to look at the screens. Ooh, very good. Those match very well. I detect minor yellowing in the corners. Battery is also minorly low, but I'm not too worried about that. Okay. So let's get my tactile button test going, which I open up an application on an R4 card to test buttons. I'll pay special attention to the R button. Yeah, that is definitely a new digitizer. It's got a texture to it. I hate it, but this is really the only thing that's available. That was a bit odd. I'm going to have to look. It didn't really... Yeah, I won't mention it right now. Let me just focus on one thing at a time. No, this one's still having problems. So when I pull back on the button, like when I do a full press, and then I start to let go, that time it did it, of course, but the button will click, and then when you let go, it will click again. Sort of a click in and a click out. When I pull out, like when I go to sort of trigger that click out, it disappears before it actually registers. So right there, I haven't fully clicked out of the button, but it disappears. Came back in. It's probably because I accidentally put in a little bit of pressure. Like, this is one of those problems that's like, man, would this matter in real life? Like, would this really matter? It registers. It's just when you pull it out, it cuts out just a tiny bit early. Like, the only thing I can really think of is if you do a really soft input. But once you hit the actual, like, actuation point of the button, it sort of pulls that input down rather aggressively. So even if I had maybe if whoever bought this, maybe their fingers aren't as strong as mine, for instance, and you don't press the shoulder buttons as hard. Like, I'm giving it the lightest pressure I can within reason to actually trigger that actuation. Just going down incredibly slowly. Once I hit that click, it's kind of a point of no return. Now, where I could see a problem is if you need to do a hold input. Like maybe you're playing Mario Kart, you click to do a shoulder or a drift. And if I'm not like holding it down super hard, like I let go a little bit, but it's still within that button actuation, it will cut out. So if I press the button and kind of get a little lazy on that input and let go a little, it'll cut out, but it's still within the actuation point. So I tried cleaning it. I'm going to replace this button. I'm just going to replace the entire ribbon assembly. And throw this in a junk pile. So what this tells me is after I cleaned it, it reported a false positive. Like, it seems good, but that's kind of the problems that occurs when I clean them. Sometimes they'll report a false positive. And then a couple days later, after the button thoroughly dries, it goes back to that problem again. Going off of memory, it seems about the same. Like, a cleaning didn't work. Which happens, you know? I think maybe just for the future, I should probably just destroy the button. Just so I don't try and... when sometime in the future, if I decide to look at those junk boards to maybe find a replacement of something, I'm not looking at this button thinking, why did I ever put it here? Just go ahead and just axe it. And just say, well, I physically destroyed it, so it can't be used. Though I am kind of curious to see if there's any, like, corrosion or anything wrong. So humor me for a second as I sort of do some dissection. Let me see if my microscope will come up. Yeah, look at that. There it is. Alright, so here's the button. Ooh, okay. I guess that's kind of telling. You can see almost looks like there's some corrosion up top. That might be my entire problem. I didn't really spot that when I was first looking at it. Ooh, and there's even some rust. Wow, that's sort of the things you learn when you look at it under a microscope. Alright, so I just want to just sort of violently pull this apart. This will sort of prevent me from... Oh, I guess I don't... Maybe I don't actually have to pull this apart. I can just sort of push it forward. If you're desperate and without parts, this is sort of a way of cleaning the... Ooh. This is sort of a way of trying to repair the shoulder button without actually replacing the switch. Like if you live in a country where AliExpress isn't really an option. To the best of my understanding, this is supposed to be not this color. This is supposed to be like clear silver. Or it's supposed to look like the other side, which the other side should look like both sides of this little like switch should be the same color. And no, it is not. Let me look inside to see what those little surface contacts look like. Like, of course it was good enough to work. Like, it worked for quite some time. But yeah, like there's a little bit right there. I wonder if that's like worn away or if that's like just gunk. Almost looks like broken down rubber. Like, the board side looks fine. This does not, though. But if you were desperate enough, I would say this is probably... This isn't a horrible method, but when you go to sort of crimp that metal piece back together, might not work very good. And my understanding is when I scratch at this, I'm sort of scratching away sort of the conductive layer, so the fact that everything kind of tumbled out like it did is sort of telling. Oh well, this will tell me in the future that this thing needs to be replaced. I'll just try and Frankenstein it back together. Because I am more curious of trying to see if, like, this is sort of a viable method of opening up the button to try and clean it, which I've always been under the assumption that no, it kind of destroys the housing. Because the last time I opened this, what it did is it ended up just fatiguing this metal and it broke off the motherboard. Or it broke off this board. And you could fix that by just sort of goobering on a little more solder. Not really. No, I don't think I could really bend that back. I mean, it would probably work, but without that metal casing holding onto it, you can see just how much that button kind of flexes. Because it doesn't have those front supports anymore. Because this little metal cage I bent back, it's not holding on to the plastic housing anymore. Like, without too much force, I could probably break it off. I don't want to. I don't want to break those contacts. Curious. Just curious. So I'll replace it with hopefully one that's in good shape. I won't have to worry about this problem. Alright, here's another one. It looks fine. There's a tiny bit of rust on the top, but it shouldn't. That should be kind of telling. It might reveal the same problem, but I really won't know until I test it. So I'll assemble this. I won't fully close the console back up, but I'll at least get the shoulder button in. And then run it by a test to see if this shoulder button's good enough to work. Alright, let's see what we got here. I will note as everything is loading that I replace the R button. R button replaced. All right, let's see what we got here. They sound a little different. But this button is performing very well. Does kind of flicker right at the very edge of the sort of unclick. Oh. No, I'm getting no inputs. Okay. It's getting some faulty inputs. Let me grab another one. It could just need a cleaning, but I don't want to put another shoulder button through a cleaning this late. Not on the second round of testing. I need to just have a shoulder button that works. When I get this shoulder button into another console, I'll try to clean it and see if that fixes it. What I might just do is clean it right now, and then just put it back in my stock. That could be all it needs. Or it could be kind of like that last shoulder button where it's just fouled by water damage, and it really is just unsavable. This will at least give it time to just sort of mellow out for a while before I reassemble it into a console. So what I do to clean shoulder buttons is fill a bottle cap full of rubbing alcohol until I can actually submerge the entire switch into the rubbing alcohol. And then I'll just press it a bunch of times while it's submerged. Kind of squeeze out the air, bring in the rubbing alcohol, and hopefully sort of the suction and a force of the little switch will flush out whatever's in there and hopefully provide a little bit of mechanical wear onto the button components and sort of break up and flush out whatever corrosion or bad stuff's in there. I usually have some pretty good success with this, but other times if a button is just too far gone, no amount of cleaning is realistically going to help it. Thankfully, these little, the shoulder buttons are modular. They're not soldered onto the main motherboard, thank God. And since they're modular, and they're also available for pretty cheap on places like AliExpress. But like I was saying, some people aren't as lucky as I am here in the States, so they may not have access to those marketplaces for very cheap. Let me grab another shoulder button. So this one has absolutely no sign of water damage whatsoever. Well, now that I get it in the light, never mind. That one had some very minor spots of rust. This one's better. Okay, let's try this. The perks of having a lot of spare parts. Because a lot of my parts consoles that I've gotten, some of them were in just like otherwise perfect shape, but maybe the screens were yellowed. A lot of my Japanese consoles were like that, where the shells were in amazing shape, but the screens were fouled. And all the other components were in great shape. I know the one seller I used to buy from, like, dramatically raised their prices to where it's just not even valid for me to buy from them anymore. I haven't bought used consoles in a while, so I have so much stock that I don't have to really worry about that for now, for the time being at least. Alright, so let's test out this shoulder button. Should have far more higher chance of success. Battery. It wasn't detecting my R4 card, but that could just be the micro SD card slid out a little. And since there's no mechanism holding in that SD card. Oh. Again, there's no mechanism holding in my SD card, so wouldn't surprise me if it slid out just a tiny bit. There it goes. Why are you doing this, R4 card? I know you're sort of a generic no-brand SD card, but don't do me dirty. I don't have many low-capacity SD cards anymore. There it goes. Alright. Grab some water. Alright. That button looked cosmetically very good. I think it detected a little bit of jittery right there. But I can't seem to repeat it. It's like a little bit. Hmm. one's definitely a lot better. And it's possible it just needs some mechanical input to just kind of break it in, so to speak. It hasn't been pressed in a while. Most likely it hasn't been pressed in years. And that seems fine to me. I don't have a problem with it. Alright. I'll sort of make that determination during my final test. So for now, I'll put it back together. So then I can proceed with my other tests. And then if that pullback input still sort of has sort of a flutteriness to it, I may still clear it. I can't really think of many like hyper specific problems that would arise from that. Because I would hopefully assume that some muscle memory would take over and you would give full inputs on the R button when you're using them and not just like press fully and then pull back on it. I don't know, it's a little hard to try to conceptualize how it kind of feels to do that input. Alright, next I need to do the touchpad, or the touch screen, which is an aftermarket digitizer, so I'm going to have to be a little careful with it. Get those clips down on the bottom screen. Alright, so I have this application which just turns the bottom screen into a touchpad. So then I'm going to kind of do like a half-ass test on this, where I'm just going to use a microfiber cloth and just to do my inputs so that I don't scratch the screen. Dragging a stylus across these third-party digitizers is just, it feels awful. I don't know what it is about them. They just have a weird texture to them. It looks fine. There's going to be several like points where the input cuts off, but that's more because I'm using a microfiber cloth. I'll assess that when I actually put a screen protector on. This is a new digitizer, so it better work. Let me grab my list here. Touchscreen, okay, speakers, microphone, and headphone jack. I'll combo with a SD card slot test. Volume is changing, so it is responding to the volume buttons. La 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 la! There's a bit of a high-pitched noise. It's not that bad. Okay, sees my SD card, sees the song. I'm going to listen to both speakers, plug in my headphone, listen to both earbuds. Right. That worked out nicely. And I assume that if it can read a song off an SD card, the SD card slot's good. Check the camera, look for any sort of weird artifacting, weird colors. Both look good. charge port. So I have my USB charge tester off to the side here. Okay, plugged in the charger. Both system indicators are telling me it's charging. It's pulling 0.5 amps. And I'll jiggle the charge port around to see, or charge cord around if I see any blips in this charge light. So far, looked good. All right, game card slot. So looks like I did clean it. So that, I don't exactly know what that means. I should have left better notes, but I'm going to assume it maybe had problems with just like a single game card and not more than one. Because I surely would have failed the console if I would have detected a problem of that magnitude. I'll be kind of careful just to make sure that past the actuation point. I am able to get this card disappear past the actuation point. But that is past. Okay. I'll kind of explain this as I go. That one just kind of, I'm just trying to focus on. The game cards are disconnecting on bottom out. So what I do is I put the game card in normally, see if it reads. Usually does. Put my fingers on it and shift the game card from side to side. There's a little bit of play. And then I'll push the game card down all the way until I hear the click of the game card slot. And pretty much any time between like the normal resting position of the game card up until that ejection point, it needs to read the entire time, which it does. And then past the ejection point, there's a little more that you can push in the game card. But it looks like on all of my cases, when I bottom out the game card, that's pushing it as far as it will go, it will cut out. Now that's kind of an interesting sort of scenario for me, because I don't realistically expect a game card to stay connected past that actuation point, because if you press that on, say for instance you're playing a game and something pushes against it hard enough to actually trigger the ejection mechanism, it's a point of no return. So if you're playing the game card and it disconnects, I can't really see a scenario where you accidentally have that game card pressed in all the way like that and not know about it and just continue playing ignorantly. So I almost just chalk that up as a non-issue. What I could do is go in and give the game card slot, give all those pins just a tiny bend up, because it would seem that cleaning didn't solve it. But I very hesitantly even call it an issue. Because again, you're kind of at a point of no return when it comes to the game card is coming out. And I can't just picture a scenario where you bottom the game card out in the game card slot while playing the game. I just don't see that as a valid scenario. Like maybe like the once in a super rare, like maybe you're playing and you fall over or something and something presses on the I just can't picture a scenario where you can somehow keep that game card held down and still play it to maybe get to a save point to save before shutting off your console and safely ejecting the card. I wonder if it is this one pin. I'm guessing this was the pin I bent up. It's going to be incredibly hard to try and show. But one of those game cards, right below that number 3, like directly below it, it's just sitting in there a little differently. It's not wrong, obviously, it read the games, but... Oh, I kind of see what the problem... Well, no, that's not a problem, but... So there's supposed to be a little plastic peg in there. I think that's just more for the game card alignment, and the peg on that piece is busted. That... I think that's just more for the game card alignment, so when you're sliding in the game card, those little plastic pegs catch onto this rail. So for a middle peg to be gone, that shouldn't impact anything. Oh, here it is right here. It broke off. That's kind of wild. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Where the hell is it? Yeah, here it is. So this is the little plastic peg. That's odd. I wonder if that always was broken off like that. That surely wasn't me right now. I did sort of push this pin up a little far. That is a part of the structure that holds the pin down, but if I remember what these game card pins look like, they should go in quite a ways. Because the game card pins are kind of like knuckles that will sort of bend down as you push the game card slot in, and you'll see that that one is missing. That shouldn't matter. But that's odd for it to break like that. I'm not even sure how I can even verbalize this. I'm gonna guess that it is the same one that needed bending. Game card, slot, pin bent up. Guide peg broken. To the best of my knowledge, that is benign. It's almost like a redundancy to catch, like, if any of these game cards, like, if these little rails were just mangled up, if you were to slide it in, how the pins would be aligned to that. But if you're trying to put in a mangled game card, I mean... So let me try this test again. I won't put the console fully together. I won't put in the screws yet. Let's just see if just bending up that game card pin just a little, and it was just a little. See if that sort of fixes this issue. No, it didn't, but It's again in that same vein of it reads the game card all the way until the ejection point. And it's just when I'm bottoming out the game card is when it's having a problem. Let me look at the slot one more time. It didn't bend it back down. And the one I bent up, I have it in line to the best that I can tell. What I think I'm just going to do is just mention that it has trouble reading game cards when it's bottomed out. But I'm going to check. I'm not entirely sure why. I can try cleaning the game card slot again. But I'm going to chalk that up as just a non-issue because I cannot imagine a scenario where that would become an issue. Where that is like a notable issue that it's like, hey, my game cards disconnect when I push the game card down all the way. It's like, well, I can't rationally picture a scenario where anyone would do that on purpose or on accident. And for that to be somewhat more disruptive than the game card being ejected out by the mechanism. It's just... because especially since the game card could read while I was smacking it against my palm, which I never really explained, but since I smacked it against my open palm, the game card didn't disconnect. It'll survive any mild impacts without disconnecting. Just weird. Just to the extent of my imagination, though most of the consoles pretty much all the consoles I've been testing don't have that issue with bottoming out game cards. I just can't imagine a scenario where that would be an issue. It's just sort of a benign oddity, because it doesn't seem to foretell a worse issue. So let me restack these game cards, and then I'll just go through them all with the knowledge knowing that they might cut out being bottomed out. So I'll just pay a little more special attention to it. It would just be odd for the testing I'm doing to have broken that peg. I'm just kind of confused at how that peg got broken. It's probably why that game card pin was bent down to begin with, because something broke that peg. The only thing I can think of is maybe just like a mangled game card was shoved in, and just the broken bits of plastic on the game card just, I don't know, stressed out that little peg or broke it or something. Can't really say. If it were an outer peg, that would be a cause for concern, but it was like one of the inner pegs. Odd. Ooh. Console's almost dead. I guess I didn't charge it after a battery test. I can slap it on the charger after this. So what's interesting here is this Pampered Pets game is not cutting out on bottoming out. So it's very odd, which is why it's good to have sort of a large pool of game cards for me to test. I'll do a cleaning on it to just see if it helps. I'm guessing it won't because I already did a cleaning round on it. Huh. Yeah, some of these games aren't displaying that issue when I bought them out. So maybe the game card slot just needed another good cleaning, and maybe just the friction of these game cards going across it is sort of enough to restore it. Kind of wild. Huh, yeah. I need to go back to those first few cards that were displaying that issue. Very unlikely that it was those, like, 4 cards. Because for it to be a pattern like that, it's less likely to me to be those cards than it would be the game card slot. Okay, Bejeweled 3 has been giving me issues. So it's cutting out when I bend the corner down a little. I don't know why it's just been Bejeweled 3, but this has been, for just the last couple days, it's been giving me sort of weird connection issues. And like, oh, I spoke too soon. A little inconsistent in how I'm able to trigger it. But I just chalk that up to just being something with that Bejeweled 3 game card. So now I'm not able to get it to disconnect on the game card bottoming out, so it's just possible it just needed a little bit more cleaning. As far as Bejeweled 3 is concerned, this has been a sort of a very consistent issue across multiple consoles. So I'm going to chalk it up to just being something with Bejeweled 3. Maybe it needs a cleaning, maybe some of these game card pins are starting to wear down. Whatever the case might be. Like even now, as I'm doing a test on it, it seems fine. So, yeah, Bejeweled 3 is just being Bejeweled 3. So I'm going to do another round of cleaning on this console. Just sort of hit these with a soft bristle toothbrush real quick. Okay, then I'll dribble on some rubbing alcohol that I don't have in my syringe anymore. Grab some more. Alright, dribbled 91% on the pins of this game card, kind of shake off the excess, and then go in for a cleaning, which is just sort of inserting it multiple times and just should solve my issue. Okay, so I'm gonna have to leave notes again. And I'll just try and see what I want to do with it. If I feel like when I put this console into a final test, if I feel like it is a problem, then I can sort of re-rotate it back into sort of a repair rotation. Guide peg busted. Game slot needed 1 and 2. So I'll just redirect to a note right here. Game cards had trouble when bottomed out. Okay. Replace the R button to hopefully eliminate the pullback input. Just seemed to do fine. I think I caught it fluttering maybe once or twice, but kind of like with the game card bottoming out, there just has to be a degree of, well, it's just unrealistic to be holding the input like that. I cleaned the game card slot twice because it had problems bottoming out, which again is sort of just another unrealistic scenario. So because of that, it's sort of like the extreme edges of my testing to try and catch. I think I'm perfectly fine passing it. I can't think of a scenario where either of those issues would be an issue that would be noticeable in normal gameplay. So that's kind of where I have to kind of draw the line, where these are used parts, they are going to be a little worn, and there's just going to be a degree of acceptability I need to establish. It's not just an either it works or not works. It's like it works 95% of the time, and just these extremely niche edge cases are where it has problems. But because of that, I have no problems with this console, as I can't pitch a scenario where it would have problems. I am going to charge it though, so I'll leave it right here, charging at 0.5 amps. Anyway, I think that'll be good for this console. Passed it test 2, so we'll be able to get it to final testing, and then like I said, a lot of these testings are just based on how I feel about it at the time, so I might feel differently come the final test, or perhaps my feelings will be the same, or I'll be a little more strict and just say this is unacceptable, this needs to go back, and I need to replace the game card slot or something crazy. So that'll be good for this console for now.